We'll give it a few more minutes because,
Okay.
as always, we have people that are a little tardy.
That is usually me.
Yeah. In
Mm.
fact, I'm going to pause the recording. Folks, I'd like to, first of all, thank you for connecting in this evening. We've got a slightly different topic, but a topic that is directly impacting on our Lions clubs, and it's the Washington State Secretary of State, the Charities Division. There's something going on that's been in place for a long time, and a lot of clubs are not aware of it. So I'm going to introduce Constance Parbon. She's the as I recall, she's the executive director there. She's in charge of the whole mess.
Ah,
So Constance, take it over.
Good evening. So I'm Constance Parvin. I'm the Public and Government Affairs Administrator here with the Secretary of State Corporations and Charities Division. I started in the corporate side and moved up into the charities and nonprofit side, and that's kind of one of my main focuses within my current role as well, educating small businesses. So tonight we're going to be talking about nonprofit registration and the additional registrations that can be had with the Corporations and Charities Division, specifically for nonprofits. And so it's actually a really short presentation. And then if there's any questions, feel free to jump in through the, Al, do you have chat going as well? Perfect. So feel free to jump into chat or we'll have Q&A at the end. And then I am here to answer any questions that you have regarding our office.
Good.
So let me go ahead and share my screen because I have a PowerPoint.
Of course you have a PowerPoint. We all have PowerPoints.
Yes. Is everyone able to see that?
Nope.
not yet.
There we go. How's that?
Much better.
Good.
Okay, perfect. So documents that are filed for a nonprofit during its life cycle is first we have the origination document. So that's the articles of incorporation, or for those that are domiciled in a different state or country, it would be a foreign registration statement. Then we have the annual reports. This is due annually on the last day of the nonprofit's anniversary month. So if you incorporated in January, those would be due January 31st every year. They can be filed up to 180 days early, and we do encourage early filing because our volumes fluctuate. And that way, if you file your annual report, if you choose to do it by mail, your status isn't going to be impacted because our volume has fluctuated. After annual reports, we have amendments, or what is known as articles of amendment. And so this is a document that's going to be filed when you need to make changes to your articles. So if you're making changes to your purpose or distribution of assets section, we'll see articles of amendment get submitted to our office. Next step would be a statement of change. So this is a document that can be filed anytime throughout the year. And this is to update the registered agent that's on record with our office. It's important that that contact information, including email address and mailing address, is up to date, as that's where the notification is going to be sent out for your annual report due date. And any notifications that our office sends out, that's where it's going to go first, is to that registered agent. And then dissolutions. Dissolutions is the final document that's filed in the life cycle of a nonprofit. And this is when a nonprofit decides to dissolve because it's no longer doing business. Dissolutions can come in many ways. Voluntary is at that basis for the nonprofit to decide. Administrative is something our office would do if an annual report hadn't been filed. And then we have a judicial, which is something that's done by the courts. So additional registrations with our office for a nonprofit would be a public benefit designation. That will lead to the nonprofit having a public benefit flag. It is a required designation if the nonprofit is going to enter into contracts with Department of Enterprise Services. This is something that just got updated in statute last year, I believe it was, under RCW 38, where for DES to contract with a nonprofit, it has to have a public benefit designation with Secretary of State. And then the charities program. And I think that's the big point that Al wanted to invite me for. Charities program is housed under corporations and charities division, and it's an additional registration that's separate from the corporate record, and creates a additional annual report for the nonprofit, and it's also based on that receiving or soliciting for donations from the public in Washington. Documents that are filed in a charitable organization life cycle would be the registration, which is that initial registration filed with our office. It's annual renewals, and that's due the last day of the 11th month of its fiscal year end date. So after its fiscal year end date. For example, those with a fiscal year of January 1st to December 31st would have a renewal date of that following November 30th. Amendments, those are used to when an accounting year has changed or to make updates to the organization's information outside of its renewal period. And then closure. And the closure is the same thing, equivalent to a dissolution on the corporate side. It can be involuntarily, which is done by our office due to failure to file the annual renewal. Voluntary, meaning that that charitable side is stopped soliciting and receiving donations or is closed, or judicial, where it's inquired by the courts for us to do. So understanding the different registrations with our office, the nonprofit corporation registration, that's the business structure of the organization. That's the registration that is the legal business entity, which is registered to conduct business in Washington state. The public benefit designation is an optional designation that may be applied to the nonprofit corporation. That's a flag that can reflect those nonprofits that hold a 501c3 federal tax exempt status. That is one of the requirements for that public benefit, is that you're attesting to that. That flag is only required by, again, Department of Enterprise Services if the nonprofit enters into a contract. Otherwise, it's not a requirement from our office. We do have a lot that choose to have that flag. As I said, it's kind of that symbol that it's a 501c3 federal tax exempt status. And then we see the charity registration. So that's the act of the nonprofit. While it creates two registrations with our office, it is understood that the charity and the nonprofit are one and the same organization. The reason for two separate registrations is that different RCWs, or what we refer to as statutes, govern over the business structure versus the act of the organization. The business structure is governed by RCW 2403A, and that provides how that internal governance of the nonprofit corporation should be operated down to its board of directors and how they vote and the quorums and all those things that go into your bylaws as well. And then nonprofit is receiving or soliciting for donations, and that's governed by RCW 1909, or also known as the Charitable Solicitations Act. And that provides the limitations or requirements when receiving or soliciting from the general public. And so under RCW 2403 that governs the nonprofit side, it does provide the Attorney General's office with oversight of charitable assets. However, RCW 1909, the Charitable Solicitations Act, provides additional oversight on how solicitation is conducted and what information must be made available to the public. So with the charities program, the enforcement and oversight of charitable solicitations are administered by the Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division. Our office really records that information for then use of the Attorney General. It is the stance of the Attorney General's office not to really be, well, it's recognized as the enforcement arm, not to be the enforcement arm, but they're really about wanting to educate organizations and really assume the best of intentions. With the charities program, there may also be connections to a commercial fundraiser, which is either an individual or a profit business that is soliciting on behalf of the organization. And where that comes into play program is that commercial fundraiser is also registered with the charities program, and the contract that the charity and the commercial fundraiser are entered into also are recorded with the charities program, and that's known as a fundraising service contract. There are multiple ways to file with our office, with whether it be the nonprofit or the charity. The nonprofit, your annual reports, the easiest way to file those is through our online filing system. Unless you've uploaded something into that filing, it automatically completes and updates the business's information. And then it is required for the charities program for those renewals to be filed online, as well as the registrations if you're initially registering. And so if at any point anybody would like to see how that's done, I can definitely show that. But I really just kind of wanted to give that overview of this. You can submit annual reports by mail to our office. That is where you would pay by check because we only accept debit or credit online. And then we also have in-person services where you can either drop those off or bring those in and have them filed the same day. Our office is extremely committed into getting out to the community and educating them on just what those registrations with our office looks like. We also contract providers such as currently our current contract holder is Nonprofit Association of Washington, or also known as NAWA. That organization provides in-person and virtual learning opportunities to nonprofits spanning multiple subjects, including fiscal requirements, how to effectively run a nonprofit. They also go into the legal compliance. They also have grant writing opportunity classes as well. In addition, OSOS co-sponsors and sponsors different nonprofit conferences. So upcoming, we have the Nonprofit Leaders Conference that we're a sponsor of. And then we'll have the Central Washington Nonprofit Conference in June that we're a co-sponsor of. And so with those, we'll either sponsor fiscally or we will also have presentations at those. So at the Nonprofit Leaders Conference in Ocean Shores, I'll be having a presentation with the Attorney General's office on just the state requirements. And that is what I have. Are there any questions?
This is a vocabulary question. What does it
Yes.
mean when you say put a flag on something?
Oh, yep. So a flag is we just have check boxes, and I can actually show you what I mean by that. Let me get into my system. So if you go into search our website and you search for your nonprofit that you have registered with us, you'll see check marks on the boxes. And so one of those boxes is the public benefit designation. We also have if a nonprofit is charitable. We also have if it's also a host home, which I didn't really think was needed here. So we have different flags that we would apply to a nonprofit based on information that they've recorded with our office. So let's see if I can find you one that has the public benefit flag.
So while you're looking, is since you're offering this to us as Lions, I was just wondering how many of all of our Lions clubs are registered as nonprofits with both of those designations.
We can definitely look at that. Is it see my screen here where it's showing the entity information?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So right here is where you're going to see, this is my internal system. So it's going to look slightly different than what it would externally. But this is where you're going to see that this organization is marked as charitable. And then we have the check mark here for them showing that they've applied for that public benefit designation.
We've also got a couple of other questions. RT asks, is there a charge? And I suspect it's with regards to the training opportunities that you had listed there.
Yes, so for the public benefit, that's a $20 fee in order to get that designation applied to it. It's a one-time fee and it gets renewed every year on the annual report. The only time the public benefit designation would have to be applied for again is if the organization were to become administratively dissolved. Now, on the charity side, there's the possibility of the fees, and that's dependent on a few things. My suggestion for all the Lions clubs, if you were to register with the charities program, would be to select the optional registration. And what that does is that's going to bring you through a qualifier. So you may qualify for a free registration because per statute, you're not required to register. But the benefits of registering with the charities program in addition to the nonprofit is it provides that level of transparency for the public. Because in the Give Smart campaign, which is through Consumer Protection of Washington, it's highly encouraged for donors to look at the charities program for registration. And in addition to that transparency to the public, it also affords those that are a 501c3 or a 170 an additional registration free into the combined fund drive, which allows state employees and employees of higher education to donate through our paychecks. And that's where I believe it was last year, just over 5 million has been raised and dispersed to the charities that have been chosen.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
Regarding the training opportunities, and one of them you had listed was in Toppenish. Is there a charge for that?
Yes, so the conference I do know that's in Toppenish has a registration. They try to keep it at a minimum or a maximum of $100 for registration, but then there are also scholarship opportunities to be had as well.
Does that include lunch?
Yes, the Toppenish one will include lunch, and so does the Ocean Shores one. The Ocean Shores one is geared towards the rural and coastal nonprofits. And that is, I want to say it's a $70 registration, but don't quote me. I believe it's cheaper than that.
Okay. Another question, Kim, and I believe this is Kim Enlow, asks, do the same rules apply to 501c4?
So 501c4 is a little bit of a different aspect because it's more going into the political lobbying. I do believe that the standpoint on the Attorney General side is that 501c4s are also charitable in purpose. So it really comes down to what the purpose of that nonprofit is and what that mission is, and if it meets those charitable definitions.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Just a short glance at the requirements, especially the reporting requirements, are almost identical.
Yeah, so yep, the reporting requirements as far as the charities program are identical regardless of the federal tax exempt status.
Yeah,
So all the same information is required.
yeah,
And I have plenty of 501c4s that are registered with our office.
yeah. I also, and the reason I became aware of this is because we were setting up a new bank account, and the bank required the registration information with your charities division before they would set up the account.
Yes, that is true. So a nonprofit, so that's the nonprofit side.
Right.
That's what banks and financial institutions will look at is they will look at your governors that are listed with our office as well as your principal office before starting a business account.
Right.
And so to go back to Nancy's question on how many Lions clubs let me see, let me bring that up real quick, are registered with our office. So I just typed in Lions Club into my entity search, and we have 194
Really?
and not just active, there are also some that are administratively dissolved.
Oh,
Lions clubs registered with Secretary of State.
Right.
oh, we're registered.
Yeah.
Look at
Well,
them
good.
all.
Yeah,
Yes, so we
great.
have
What'd
up
you
to
say it was? How many?
194.
194?
194, but let's see how many active ones we have. So
Yeah.
let's see how many active ones specifically. So let's go active and Lions Club.
Lions Club does not have an apostrophe.
Oh, it's
Still got it.
okay. It goes with or without punctuation.
Oh, very good.
Yep. So we have 117 active
Aha.
Lions Club. And for the majority, they're going to be nonprofit corporations. We have a couple that are registered as fraternal societies.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that interesting? The folks up in Burlington, we're going to have to rag on those guys.
Probably from a long time ago.
Yeah, could be.
Doesn't have a name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so for fraternal society, we do not record their principal office or registered agent information.
So I see that like Battleground has treasurer as opposed to a specific name.
So this is the registered agent section here. This
Uh-huh.
wouldn't be their governor. So this column is just the registered agent. So for your registered agent, you can have a position such as treasurer. So that means no matter who holds that office, that's going
Mhm.
to be your registered agent.
Is not a registered agent typically, or at least encouraged to be someone outside of the organization?
It doesn't have to be. Actually, a lot of our smaller nonprofits and small businesses have one of the owners or one of the board members as the registered agent. So it's where if you don't want the person's address to be utilized or that person's individual address to be utilized and on public record, that's where some will choose to go to a third party to be their registered agent. Yeah,
Hmm.
our biggest thing is you want your registered agent somebody that is reliable, responsible to recognize the notification and to take action when they receive the notification.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Other
Neat.
questions?
So this isn't the kind of thing you get the UBI designation and a federal tax number.
So your UBI, that's what's issued from our office, and that's upon your incorporation. Your EIN number, that's through the IRS.
Right.
As well as your federal tax exempt status. That is also through the IRS.
And that is, so I have a nonprofit that I work with that is Friends of Hoco River State Park. And so I know about the annual reports and such. And just a year or two ago, we needed to get that EIN. We didn't know what that was or how we
Right.
got it. But
So we actually found a
confusing.
big gap in Washington nonprofit sector. Effective in January 1st of 2022, it became required for a nonprofit
Right.
to report their EIN. However, the requirement of that EIN has always been there on a federal level. So nonprofits should have been getting an EIN as soon as they were incorporated as a nonprofit corporation. And so we have that. We've tried to close that gap with education since 2022. And we now have that also on our congratulations letter when you initially register. It says one of your next steps is to go get your EIN. Because we found a huge gap of nonprofits that did not have an EIN.
I will say that I couldn't penetrate it online, or actually I think it was malfunctioning, but a very nice person in your office talked to me through the whole process. So that was helpful.
We are humble, but also very encouraging of just what our customer service excellence is. So anybody you speak to, whether it be by chat or by phone, is housed here in our office. And we do try to go out of our way to walk somebody through from account creation to the payment screen if needed.
Great. Yeah, I think it's necessary. Sometimes some of the lions on screen here live in cities and some of us live way out in the boonies. And so there's not a lot of, we don't have a bank in our town or, we have to drive a couple hours to get there to a bank or
Yes.
something like that. So it's very helpful to have help. And you guys were very helpful.
Thank you. And now we're back online, so there shouldn't be any types of those delays. It was a very hard decision to take our annual reports offline.
Oh, and now you can do it back online again.
Yes, yep,
Ah,
you
good.
can.
That was
Yep.
so easy. Good.
Yep, I think the only difference is you can't do the express annual report. You must log in order to file that annual report, but it is available back online. So there's that auto completion.
Cool.
Yeah, very good. Other questions, thoughts, or ideas?
So do club foundations need the same information?
So the naming convention, so whether they're known as the Lions Club or the Lions Club Foundation, are you seeing here where the Central Park, where we have two different ones? So this is represented themselves as two separate business entities with separate actions. So we will see that a lot where we will see the Lions Club and then the Lions Club Foundation. Just as we do down here, we see that with Woodby as well, where we have the Lions Club and then the Lions Club Foundation. To that is to each their own. Our office doesn't designate which way it is required, how you operate that, but really it comes down to the internal functions.
Okay.
I think that's a thing, we haven't done that, but we've thought about it, that since we're a 501c4, all of us Lions, that people that want to be 501c3s then create a separate foundation.
That's generally what we'll see, and we'll generally see the foundation is registered with the charities program because it's the foundation that receives and solicits for donations.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Sharp eye,
Would
very
you,
good.
would you mind just going down to Lakewood, Lions? Lakewood first?
I will find them. Yes, I will. I hope I went too far there. Let's see. The Lakewood Knights Lion Club.
No, we're not on there.
Oh,
Hmm.
That's bad, huh?
I don't think most people know they're on a list like this.
Well, and this is a list that can be found just through our external site as well. It's really just showing those that have Lions Club in its name. Is
Yeah,
there something
like
out?
the
It
Red
would
Lion
it be?
Soccer Club.
Uh-huh. So is there something that Lakewood would be under that doesn't have Lions Club in it?
Well, it's Lakewood first Lions.
yeah.
So
Yeah, one of the
I don't,
requirements for our Lions clubs to form up is it's required to have the name of the location, the city or the county, in the name of the club itself.
I have Lakewood First Lions Community Foundation.
we have a foundation and we have an account with the club.
Jeff Rich.
Yeah, she found the foundation, but not the club itself.
Nope. And here, let's see. Let's just go with Lakewood first. Nope, Lakewood First Lions Community Foundation is the only name that populates.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Are you possibly registered with a UBI through just Department of Revenue and not with our office?
I'm going to have to ask our treasurer. I don't know.
Very good. Very good. RT
I
looks
noticed
like you have a
Arlington
question.
wasn't in there either.
Say again, RT.
I noticed Arlington wasn't in there either.
I do
No.
not have anything with Arlington Lions in it.
We're rebels out here. It should be fun because we've been borrowing the Everett Central's EIN number. So I guess I got to get an EIN number.
Yeah.
So the first step would be to register as a nonprofit corporation with Secretary of State office. And then you would utilize those articles of incorporation to get your EIN number.
Right. And the EIN is the federal side.
Correct. And Al, distribute my email address to the participants. If you have any questions after this, or if you would like just additional instructions, or we provide a form for your articles of incorporation, but I know sometimes with clubs that they prefer to utilize their drafted articles with just the specific name of that specific club in it. So I'm not sure how the Lions Club works. We tend to see those with Eagles clubs, as well as where they have a main drafted one and then just the name of that charter goes into it. So I'm not sure how the Lions Club is set up.
There you go.
Perfect. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
Kim Romberg. Oh, I'm sorry, Kim. All right. Other questions that you may have? So, Constance, it does not appear that that we're going to need to take up any of your time tomorrow night.
Okay.
I think we got everything wrapped up here. And again, because we've got this recorded, I'm going to be posting it on YouTube, and you can view it at any time. So, so I think we'll go ahead and do a wrap. Constance, I want to thank you for your time and information tonight. We do appreciate it. We really do.
You are very welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
Quite welcome. For my fellow Lions, good night all. Oh, we have a hand raised. Linda, you got your hand raised. Was that intentional?
I don't have my hand raised. I was just clapping because that was excellent.
Oh, clapping.
Thank
Yeah.
I
you.
didn't
Yep,
see
me
the
too.
animation. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
thank you.
Okay.
And feel free, any questions in the future, just utilize my email. Go ahead and send me an email.
Very cool.
Good deal. Thank you so
Excellent.
much.
Yes, thank you
Thank
again.
Thank you.
Good night all.
Good night.
Night.